Okay, and so we begin. Thank you so much for showing up. This is Girls Get Geeky, the I Am Phenomenal edition. We thank all the speakers for taking their sweet time to come and share with us their stories. We also thank you, attendees, for showing up and also for giving us your time. So we'd like to kick off and just a little bit of housekeeping. If you are not a speaker, kindly mute your mic, kindly turn off your videos, just so we can have all the speakers on one screen. This call is being recorded, so if you need to watch it later on, it will always be available for you. So I am having very mixed feelings about hosting this very phenomenal ladies. I'm excited, I am nervous, I am pumped, but mostly looking forward to just hear all of their stories and just interact with them more. So as we begin, I would ask if you have any questions, kindly post them on the Slido link that has been posted on the chat, and we can ask them at the end of the session. If your question is directed to a specific speaker, you can also mention the name. If it's just a general question, you're also allowed to ask that. So let's kick it off without wasting any much time. We're just going to go around the house and do a quick introduction of the speakers and what they do and where they're at as of now. So I'll begin with myself. An organizer, one of the organizers of Girls Get Geeky. My name is Getty Orao. I'm currently a backend engineer at SocoWatch and also doubling up as the GDG co-lead for Kisumu. So I'll pass the ball over to, drum rolls please, Roina. Let's begin with you.
Hi everyone. My name is Reina. I am a program manager at Microsoft now. And it's really great to be here. It's really great to meet everyone. And I hope we have a great session too.
Awesome. Thank you, Roina. And over to Joanna. Hi, Joanna.
Hi. So my name is Joanna Nanjeche. I'm originally from Uganda, but I currently live in Canada. And in Canada, I'm currently doing some work with IBM on Python. Part of my work is I'm doing some research in garbage collection in Python with the IBM Center for Advanced Studies in New Brunswick. Part of my time, I'm an open source contributor and I maintain the Python programming language. Me and Guido and me and other core developers maintain Python. So not me alone, but some other people too. As part of my research, I'm also doing my PhD, and I'm in my second year of my PhD in computer science. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Joanna. Okay, moving on to Dr. Chow. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Getty, and good morning, everybody. So my name is Chow, as you've heard, and I am a researcher, an educator, and a mentor, and I'm currently, my full-time job is I'm a dean of the School of Science and Technology at Kenya Methodist University, which is a private university, and my office is Nairobi campus, where I manage 4 different departments, and I run the School of Science and Technology. But in addition to that, I'm also the founder of Kamilimu, which is a mentorship program for computer science students. And so I hold a PhD in computer science, and my then research and my current research until now is in Java programming, in looking at how do we enable students from resource-constrained environments, especially to be able to use their mobile phones to learn computer programming, and so redesigning the interfaces of mobile phones to be able to accommodate learning of computer programming if you don't have access to a computer or a laptop. So that's a bit about my background.
All right, thank you, Chow. Over to you, Ruth. Hello, Ruth. Can you hear us?
Oh, sorry, my mic was on mute. Yeah, so I'm a web developer. and I'm very passionate about bridging the gender gap of women in technology. Actually, I was frustrated when I realized when I was studying in the university, very few girls were part of technology in our class. We were 6 out of 60. So I influenced my colleagues and we were able to co-found a non-profit organization called Kwani Techno Girls that has been running in the coastal region for over 6 years. And recently I published a book called She's a Techie to encourage and inspire more girls and young women to pursue technology career so that we are able to bridge this gap of women in technology and ensure that we have more inclusivity when it comes to women in technology. I'm very happy to be here today.
All right, thank you so much, Ruth. All right, over to, do we have Linda on the call? Yeah, Linda, hi.
Hi, you might have to repeat your question because I had to drop off.
Oh, sorry, it's just an introduction of who you are, where you're at right now, what exactly you do.
Okay. So yeah, I'm Linda Kamau. I'm a software engineer by profession, but a co-founder and managing director at Accurachix. And currently, I'm at the Accurachix campus. Yeah, located on Ringa Road in Kilimani. And yeah, I think that's it.
Oh, thank you so much. Wagone,
Yes.
kindly mute and turn off your videos, kindly. Sorry about that. Okay, over to Lara.
Morning, everybody. My name is Lara. I am based in South Africa, in the capital, Pretoria. I'm currently working at a company called IQ Business. We are a consulting company, and I consult as a design lead at one of the top 5 banks here in South Africa. My journey is that I started out in the printing industry, and through my journey, I watched the trends change. I then became a front-end web designer and developer. And as my career went, I've moved into a design lead position where I love mentoring the up-and-coming designers. I'm also part of the Women's Chapter Network at IQ Business. So we on a big drive in mentoring women into leadership roles within the workplace. That's me. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much to all our speakers. That was a nice introductory session. This is just so everyone can be in context with what you do and who you are as at now. So thank you so much. Let's just move into the questions because we have very little time and we'd love to know as much about you as we want to, and also have time for the Q&A session. So over to our first question. So did you know that you would be in your current career, like ever since you were little or ever since you were young? How is it that you are where you are right now? Is it something that you've been building over time, or is it something that just got you along the path of doing something else? So we could begin with you, Lara.
Okay, thank you very much. So no, I didn't know that I would land up in the tech industry because I started out in the print industry. Back then, we used to do everything by hand. You didn't really have computers. So I think I got to work on one of the first Macintosh, when it was called Macintosh, one of the Apple Macs back in, I think it was 1993. And I just fell in love with it. And from there, I grew, and I changed careers many times, from becoming a graphic designer into when the internet became available. The first thing I got onto was learning CSS and HTML. And that's how I got to where I am today.
All right. So what exactly triggered your inspiration to start learning CSS or HTML?
I think what triggered was just watching the trends. I loved trends around in tech and design, and getting that first modem and getting the first website up and running. I'm a very inquisitive person, so that's where it started. I wanted to know how it worked.
Wow, it's the curiosity, right?
That's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And over to you, Linda.
I think when I was growing up, between our family, and so I was really curious. So my brother and I used to always be the ones fixing stuff around the house, and so that kind of curiosity mind and fixing is what got me to where I am. So even when I was in school, I knew definitely tech was not something that I knew about, like in primary school. But then I loved science. I loved science so much and mathematics in primary school. But then by the time I went to high school, that's when I got to first interact with the computer. And immediately, I think the lab was found because I was always in the computer lab, spending so much time just figuring out what this thing called computers are. Even though in the first few years was just more like learning how to type. But then that made me to choose computers as an examinable subject for my fourth year. And so basically form 3, form 4. And by the time, I was actually finishing high school, I had built a program in C++. So C++ was my first language to learn. And I think by the time I left school, I knew that's what I wanted to do. Being a curious person and also the love of sciences and mathematics, I was looking into a career in I chose tech, and also I added in actuarial science, because I was just like, but everything was computer engineering, computer science, anything that just had the word computer, I thought I was looking for when we were applying for those university courses. And then the university decided I should do BCom, and I refused, and ended up chattering my way around the tech world, from learning most of it alone to a lot of distance learning to lots of self-teaching. So a lot of my programming is self-taught than it is in a class. So yeah, that's how I ended up getting into the tech world, and then got into the workforce even before getting to graduate. And so I think learning by doing was really one of the most impactful things that happened to me, because the projects I'll do at work is what I'll do in school. It was easier for me to just present that, because that's all the time, the stuff I spend time doing. So yeah, and for me, that kind of helped me be able to reach where I am and just get to work in one of the biggest tech companies in the first tech companies in Kenya, which is Ushahidi, and lead the product team there, and finally transition from just software engineer to building tech talent, female tech talent, through Akira. So yeah, but yeah, pretty much a curious person, and that's how I ended up in tech. I think tech is all about curiosity, because there's no answers until you figure them out.
Yeah, that's true. So with every step you took, your passion for technology always grew with every step. I can relate to that. So thank you so much, Linda. So over to Dr. Chow. Could you tell us, is your current career something that developed along the way, or is it something you knew you would do ever since you were young?
So I absolutely did not know that this is what I wanted to do. In fact, until I got to university, I had never used a computer. I didn't grow up with one. And so doing computer science was not something I imagined or wanted to, or grew up wanting to do. But I really loved, in fact, mathematics. And so just after I finished high school, I received, or rather, when I finished high school, between that gap year where you wait to get a university admission, I saw an advertisement for a degree in mathematics and computer science, and I wanted to do that because of the maths, not the computer science, because I didn't really have a lot of knowledge or even had met a lot of people in the computer science field enough to be inspired by it. And so I applied for that. Thankfully, my parents agreed to pay for me to attend attend that degree. And so I did. And into my first year, I received the call for university, for now the normal university admission, and I was supposed to do food, nutrition, and dietetics, which is interesting because I do love to cook, but that is not what I wanted to do as studies. So I kind of stumbled into computer science because of mathematics. And I eventually ended up really falling in love with computer science. And, that's what I ended up doing for my postgraduate degrees. And yeah, so here we are today.
All right, so this is basically due to your love for mathematics.
That's how I came into computer science, yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Chow. So over to Joanna. What's your story?
So I really accidentally got into computers. Like when I was growing up, I wanted to fly aircrafts. I wanted to be a pilot. So that's all I wanted. And I got a scholarship to do software engineering in Makerere in Uganda. That's how I came to learn about programming. I didn't want to study software engineering initially, but my mother just said I don't have money to pay for you in flying school, so just go do the scholarship. But then in my third year, I think we were taught a course on microcontrollers and how to program them. And so I got curious from that course to do some programming and ended up doing a project there. Anyway, long story short, I went to flying school to do aeronautical engineering, and I ended up loving the software engineering better now. So it was a good mistake. It was a good coincidence, I would say.
Yeah, we wouldn't call it a mistake.
Yeah, it's not a mistake.
All right, thank you, Joanna. So over to you, Reina. What's your story?
Well, I actually did get into computer science on purpose. My dad from the 90s built software for banks. So always grew up with this.
Is it just me? Reina, we lost you for a bit.
Yeah, we've lost her.
Okay. All right, hopefully she'll come back soon. Meantime, we can move to our next question. Sorry about that, Reina. So what exactly drives you in your day-to-day life? What exactly makes you wake up to do what you do? What's the driving force of what you do? We can start with you, Joanna.
Okay, so what really drives me and gets me up in the morning, much of it is curiosity, but a lot of it is a sense of purpose. I didn't know that with a career you could be, you could be useful to people. I thought it was about making money and that's all. But I think the fact that I can impact somebody's life, that gets me up in the morning and keeps me doing whatever I was doing. So initially, I was writing software for banking, and at one point there is a lady who shook me because I helped her. I was fixing a system they depended on, and she was happy that day that she was not going to use the cumbersome Excel for that particular day. So from that day, I feel like what keeps me driving is the fact that I can help somebody. I can simplify someone's job or simplify a concept to somebody. That's what keeps me going. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Software engineering is all about problem solving, so I can relate. Thank you so much, Joanna. Over to you, Lara. What drives you?
What drives me? I think what drives me every day is just that I'm changing lives. I'm changing the way people use technology, making their journeys within the banking or much easier, much more enjoyable. I think also what drives me is the mentoring that I do with my junior designers, my middleweight and my senior designers. I'm learning from them, they're learning from me. And I'm also very inspired by our developers, working with them. I mean, it's very important these days and that's where I think learning to code or understand code is so important, because it helps your conversations with business, with tech. So I think it's just knowing that you're creating these wonderful applications that are going to change somebody's life in some way.
All right. Thank you so much, Lara. And Raina, I'm sorry you dropped off. Sorry for your connection. So I guess you could pick it up from where you left and then just finish up with what exactly drives you in your day-to-day life.
The power just went out and the connection dropped. So I did kind of get into software engineering just off the bat because my dad in the 90s used to build software for banks. And so we kind of grew up with that black screen and kind of wondering what these mysteries are. Like, what is he writing on those on that black screen, and what does it actually do? So I didn't do any computer-related course in high school, but I'm a generalist in every sense of the word. So I did stuff like art and business and just that was pretty much where I was at. But when it came to uni, like, I think the choice was pretty straightforward for me, that I wanted to go into software. And I didn't know that software was going to kind of like unlock for me a new way of thinking about leadership in tech, because just through that software engineering journey and through the experience with communities, I think it was quite clear that there is definitely a gap in leadership that needs to be filled with someone who has that kind of background. And so that's how I ended up going into product and product management and really trying to deconstruct this process and change my thinking around problems in software by truly understanding the business considerations, the design considerations, and the actual developer considerations for making successful businesses. And so far, it's been a super great journey. And so the thing that drives me the most about that journey is I get so exhilarated by the feeling of being in those rooms where everybody's thinking on like a whole different level. Like I like the small things about being a techie, which is we can just jump into a room, get a whiteboard, and super deconstruct some complex issues, and then at the end of it, go grab some coffees and just do it, because we have the power to do it. We can write code, we can make anything. So I mean, like, having that kind of process be what you do on a day-to-day, I mean, like, I wouldn't ask for anything more. Like, it's just fun. It's just fun.
I feel you. All right. So thank you so much, Reina. And over to Dr. Chow. What inspired you?
Oh, I think you also dropped off. I don't know if Roina were in the same power line, because like just went off for like a minute and then it came back.
Sorry.
I feel like all of us are in the same power line.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. What drives me is the ability and potential and space to be able to hold the ladder up for others, because I think that a lot of, especially having all of us in this space, in the Kenyan space, or even in all the international space that we have access to, we find that most of the times, especially students, are not they don't excel or are able to do stuff, not because of inability, but because of lack of access or lack of information or lack of people to guide them towards that. And I think that singular thing is something that drives me every day, the realization and the continued realization that that the ability of enabling other people to either have access to opportunities or to build their skills in more ways than they probably could have if you didn't show them how and where to get those skills at, is something that has become very core to the work that I do, both in my daytime job as well as in the mentorship program that I run. And that is something that I really hold very passionately, because I strongly believe that the more of us can be able to do that and hold the ladder up for others, the more of us that will be, gain steps or gain access to the top, or whatever the top looks like to you, and also just opportunities that they could otherwise perhaps not have been able to have access to.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Chow. And over to you, Ruth. What is your motivation? What drives you day by day?
Okay, so for me, what really motivates me is the girls I mentor and train at Polytechno Girls. Coming from a humble background, I always take it at my responsibility to support them, because I always, I'm a self-taught web developer, and I've been able to learn on my own, and I've been able to acquire employment using the skills that I got. So I always encourage the girls I mentor at Pwani Techno Girls, because most of them have finished high school, and in one way or the other, exams sometimes can turn out other way for you. And coming from humble backgrounds, most of these girls are not able to continue to pursue, maybe join university or college. And I believe using the technology skills that we train them at Polytechno Girls is giving them employable skills. Yeah, and even the confidence, like as a young girl, all your colleagues have gone into college, they're doing what they really want, and you're not able to do. Just getting that credibility and boosting your confidence in the society that yes, you are not able maybe to join university, but here you are. You can code, you can develop solutions, and at the end, you're able to sustain yourself and able to sustain your family. So that is that's what really inspires me and motivates me to continue doing the work I do at Polytechno Girls, where I'm the director, and also I help a lot in training these girls and mentoring them to ensure that they don't just get these skills, but also give it back, pass it on the same way I'm doing it for them.
Awesome. Nice story. Thank you so much, Ruth. And lastly, over to Linda.
Thanks, Katie. So I live life in just one simple rule: do good and be happy. So for me, whatever I'm doing makes me happy, and in turn also makes other people happy. For me, that's enough achievement. For me, that's what achievement looks like, basically. But mainly, even when I look back at my tech journey, and especially when I was working at Ushahidi and leading the product team, the reason as to why I enjoyed doing what I did was because the software that I spent time building was being used to save lives from places like Haiti, to earthquakes in Japan, and all that stuff. Like I would wake up today and just see the impact that the software was having on people. And that was enough to motivate me to keep doing what I'm doing. And while at it, even looking back at the journey of Akirachix 10 years down the line, and we're still seeing more young women getting into the tech world and taking over spaces that in a normal day weren't spaces that were built for them. Just recently, one of our students just got her job at a Silicon Valley company. And for me, just seeing the strides that these young girls just take from simple things as just never have touched a computer, to getting into figuring out what these computers are, to coding, to developing solutions that are being used worldwide, not just in Kenya, but in Africa and the rest of the world. That really gives me a lot of hope of what the future holds for women in technology, and keeps me going, knowing that I mean, it will get, I mean, I always say I switched from programming just not so long ago, but I still do it as an contributing to open source software, but not commercially building software. But I look at back and see like I had not so many mentors to look up to or role models to help me go through the journey. And my mentors were mainly men. But when I look at where we are right now, I'm happy to see that it's not the same as it was 10 years ago. I mean, women are stepping up, young girls are excited about joining the tech world. And so for me, that motivates me and gives me hope of what the future looks like. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you so much to all our speakers. So just a kind note, there's a Slido link on the chat box where you can post your questions if you need them answered. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of this session. Thank you so much. So we've just talked about our inspirations and what drives us in our day-to-day lives. So I'd like to switch that just a little bit. For all of us, I'm assuming for all of us, there are days when we literally just don't want to wake up. Like there's that day when you're sure this thing is not for me and you're feeling at your worst. Are there times you have felt that before, and how did you overcome that? And what exactly made you feel that way? Who can we start with? This is one to think about. Who am I going to start with? Oh, Lara. Lara, you seem ready.
So I actually had an incident this year. I think when Corona hit South Africa and we went into lockdown level 5, we had to change our ways of working very quickly. We had to work from home. We had to make sure we had internet connection that was strong enough. There were people that were who managed to work from home with no issues, though some of us felt like we were going to lose our jobs. There was a lot of anxiety, and in specifically my one project, which is Forex payments, so international payments, global payments, everybody just became, I don't want to say, well, they became hectic. They became a bit like, you could feel the anxiety of like, are we still going to meet our deadlines? We hadn't set up the proper project tools to use online. Before, we were using stickies on boards. So I think from that, I think it's the people around me that, like my bosses, that I lent on to say, I'm not coping. How do I handle this? I'm very blessed at IQ Business. We have a department called Human Capital who had set up a whole lot of ways that you could reach out and have conversations in a safe and trusting environment. And I think that's what helped me get through. Because it was for the first time in a long time that I actually didn't want to wake up in the morning and go to work, because I couldn't handle the negativity that had created.
Oh yeah, that happens. That happens.
Yeah, but it's better now, right? We're 6-7 months into this journey. People have settled. People have realized that they're not losing their jobs. We have had a lot of people lose their jobs in this country. We're feeling the impact. But I think that, I think we're going to see a whole different digital era now. A lot of new technology, new applications coming out. So I'm excited for that.
I agree. Most, if not everyone here, has felt the impact of COVID in one way or another. And so I guess we can relate to that. Thank you so much, Lara. And over to you, Dr. Chow. I've given you enough time to think this out.
That's okay. So I'd like to go back to an incident that happened when I was in my last year of completing the PhD, which is a lesson that I'm still carrying until today. So usually, everybody knows. I mean, a lot of us in the room have been in this stage where they're completing a project either in their last year, in whatever level, and it's always such a high pressure period. And so also for context, I was Lara, I was actually in University of Cape Town for my PhD. So so I wanted to, so this is, just to give a brief context of why this was such a very low moment for me was at UCT, if you want to graduate, say in 2020 for your PhD and you want to be examined for that year, ideally you should submit your thesis by February. If you don't, in that case, then you won't pay the fees because the academic year starts in February. And so I had a target of, I need to submit my thesis by February. And that was what I worked on, late nights at the lab and whatnot. And so come February, and, here I was working overtime to complete this thesis. And on a week to submission of my thesis, I meet my supervisors and I very exactly say that I'd like to, so we are submitting my thesis next week. And one of my supervisors very carefully and very democratically said, but Chao, I don't think we are ready to submit your thesis yet, because I feel like there's some areas that we still have to work on. And I mean, you're free to submit because you can actually go ahead and submit without your supervisors, basically, backing you up completely. But so that moment, why that was a very important moment for me was when he said that. I remember my heart just sank because I'd been on this overdrive of that I must submit by this date. One, so that I don't have to pay the fees, I can save that, and two, because I just want to be done. And so when he said that, I don't think we are ready to submit, I think it should take 2 more months to do this and this. And I think it will make your work even better. I remember when he said that, I went back to the lab and picked my things and went home. And this was towards the weekend. I called my mom and I was like, I was asking her, now I don't know where I'll get I didn't plan financially to pay fees again. And, I've really been on this adrenaline high of I want to submit, and I really didn't want to go against my supervisors and just submit despite their go ahead, which I could if I wanted, but I didn't want to do that. And so it was a low moment for me for 2 reasons. One, I had not planned the finances to pay fees because this was literally a week to now. If you don't submit by that time, you now have to register for the year and pay the fees. And two, I had psychologically prepared myself to just be done with a PhD and sort of like do other things. And so I spent the weekend being incredibly, like, I felt my bubble had been burst. And on Monday, I went back to the lab and I spoke to my 2 supervisors. And as it turned out, when they had also kind of taken time to think about it. And in this meeting, when I was telling them I don't know what to do about, because I'd not really prepared to pay this X amount of money for the fees for this year, they told me, you know what, you can apply for a departmental scholarship because there's that opportunity. You can apply for that, and we could second you. And then that might help to offset, because we're just thinking 2 months is what will be the ideal time to add to, so that you can do just, you can perfect up the work. And so I did apply for the departmental scholarship, which then helped me offset that year's fees. And I had to really bring back myself, just accept with very much humility that I need 2 more months, because you had told yourself that, this work is fine. And so I went back down to square one. Fortunately, the departmental scholarship helped offset, the extras of what I hadn't planned for, and I was able to pay that year's fees. And then, I just went back to, okay, so let me see what exactly I need to now work on, that my supervisors felt, I needed to really fill in the gaps or anything that was pending. So I worked for the 2 months, and it was a real time of reflection of, okay, so what is it that I can do better? And long story short, eventually I finished that, submitted in April instead of February. But long story short, at the end, when I was examined and I got my results back, I had one of the highest rated PhD theses, which I'm very proud of, to say. And so the biggest lesson for me is that just the fact that I sort of like allowed myself to accept that kind of feedback. It wasn't because, you know, you want to be done after 3 years of doing the same thing. You just want to be done with this. And it's a lesson I pick on. One, just accepting some kind of feedback which may not necessarily be palatable, but if it's coming from a good place, from the people who really care and mentor you, it can actually end up being, you know, a result to something that is really amazing, which it did for me. And secondly, to also accept and ask for help, which I did, and it turned out that the department actually had available scholarships for situations like that, which really helped in the financial worry I had. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. It takes a lot of guts to actually recollect yourself after that happens. So now we can call you doctor. I mean, yeah, that's good enough. Thank you so much. Over to Joanna. Hi, Joanna.
Hi. So for me, in I think 2014. So prior to that, I'd been headhunted from university. So I had a job before I actually graduated. But then a few months too. Is our connection fine? I'm curious. Okay. So after some time, I didn't have a job. So I went through a period where I was looking for a job, and I was getting so many rejections. Now, I don't take myself to be very serious, but when I'm looking for something, I'm always serious. Like I can set goals, like I'll send 50 applications every day, and I usually do that. So I was sending 20 applications every day, and for the whole 2014, I got rejections. Like everything I would apply for, I literally got rejected for it. So during that time, if there was a time I was supposed to give up on programming that year, 2014, I was supposed to give up because at some point I applied to join the army so that I would do something else that's not programming, maybe fly aircraft, so something like that. So I attempted that year. So if anything didn't go through that year in 2014, I was supposed to give up. Okay, that was the specs then. But what kept me going was, it may be unique to me, but I feel like if I was not doing tech, there was nothing else I could do, literally. So I had no option but not to give up, you know. So even amidst the rejection, and I didn't have a mentor, first of all, at that time. I didn't have anybody to talk to. At least these days we have like Girls Get Geeky or Rails Girls. You can go there, talk to people and stuff like that. But then I'll just be in my room and try to program harder and apply for the next opportunity and stuff like that. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, if you've tried for 5 years, when you look back, what should encourage you is the fact that you are not where you were 5 years ago, and that should keep you going. It's not very easy. I mean, it's easier said than in practice, but rejections are very hard, and it's very easy to give up. And I'm not saying I no longer get rejected right now. The rejections have reduced, but I get rejected in other areas. But I think it's just not giving up, and because after some time things will work out. Now, when I connect the dots back, I'm happy I didn't give up then. So rejections are constant, but it's for a short time. Yeah.
I agree. I've had to deal with rejections on my own before I actually got my first entry-level job. So yeah, thank you so much, Joanna. Over to you, Linda. Hello, Linda. Can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry, the connection is really terrible. But yeah, I think for me, it's just, I'll take it back to 2017. During the Kenyan election that ended up having two elections in one. Since then, I am like completely, I feel like I am, what do you call it? Anytime I think about Kenyan election, I just things don't add up, because 2017, I mean, the election, the fact that it took almost a whole year and almost another half a year to just get things into place as a country, that really affected some of the work that I was doing, both from Akira Chicks and that time when I was working, because the software I was building was being used for monitoring elections. I mean, I think after everything went south with the violence in the different informal settlements, which is where most of our students came from at that time, and not knowing how to be of help to those young women, especially because, I mean, like a place like Kibra was blocked off, you know, like a place like Matare and all that stuff. And so for me not being able to do as much as we could to make sure that they were okay and they were safe, that was just something that really drained my energy. Just, yeah, like waking up and just thinking that we still are in this mess almost a week or 2 weeks and 3 weeks after was really draining, and not being able to support their students then was, for me, was just one of the lowest moments I've ever had. I'm a very optimistic person, so when things are not aligning, they bog me down so much. And so that was one moment that I knew I feel like I had no power and there's not much that I could do. And yeah, and those people who like being in control and knowing that I can do stuff. And so that was one of the lowest moments. But I think from that, I think that ended up having some of us start thinking, what could we do to ensure that we're protecting the young women that we're working with, and ensuring that there's no barrier that will limit them from being successful, you know, from accessing this precious gift that is an education in the tech world, and be able to take up opportunities in the tech world. And so I feel like, yes, it was a very low moment in life, but then again, for me, it was also like a springboard to what is Akira Chicks right now, where it's now, we built a residential program where the girls are pretty much in a safe space. They never lack, they are not exposed to, you know, like any violence and all that stuff. This is their home at any one given point, whether you've graduated from Akira Chicks or not, it's a home that you can always come back to. And so just for me, it was, yes, a low moment, but then it was a moment for me to think about what next, and how could we ensure the security and the protection of the young women that we work with. And I'm happy because even now during COVID, it's still a home for them. I mean, they're safe from, you know, like being exposed to COVID-19. They're continuing learning, and they're about to graduate, they're getting jobs, they're getting internships. And so I feel like, yes, it was a low moment in 2017, really low, but then it was like a point for change in terms of how we run the Akira Chicks program. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda. So what I'm getting from most of us, sorry, I'm not sure I'm getting an echo. So what I'm getting from most of us is that whenever we're really low, this is usually caused by situations that most of the time we do not have control over. So I don't think we should beat ourselves up, beat ourselves down for it that much. All right, anyway, next to Ruth. You there? Sorry, Ruth, you are muted.
All right. Yeah, sorry about that. So one of the time that I can say was very low for me when I was a second year student. So actually when I joined university, I really knew that I wanted to code. And coming from a very small rural setup, this was very, very hard for me. So when we were able to be introduced to the concepts of coding, I decided to take it up on my own, to learn coding on my own. So you could find most of the time I could stay up to maybe 3 a.m., 4 a.m., learning new concepts, especially in PHP, where I was learning how to build my own content system from scratch. Sometimes things were not working. So it was really very hard for me. And at some point, I wanted to give up on coding. But what really kept me moving was actually Ada Lovelace is one of my inspirations. She was the first female to write code. So each and every time I could remember that, I could maybe take some break and come back in and continue. And I'm very happy that due to my persistent nature and my passion to learn to code, I've been able to transform the skills that I have and now sharing them to the girls and the young women I mentor at Polytechno Girls. Yeah, so that was like I always say it's always a hard moment for me because I was still a second year trying to teach these things on your own, and some of the ladies here can also just understand, like when you're trying to run code, you're trying to write code, things are not working. Yeah, so that was a very low moment for me, but I'm very happy that I've been able to overcome that. I was able to learn, and throughout that process I was able to learn how to troubleshoot, fix bugs that I was encountering, and the same skill now I'm transferring to the girls and young women that I'm working with.
All right, thank you so much, Ruth. Thank you very much. All right, over to Roina lastly.
Well, I think we're just circling back to the regular challenges that beat you down to the point where you don't wanna wake up. I am such a huge victim of I'm generally a very high energy person, and I generally always want to get things done. And when you're growing up and you're looking at all these inspiring women, you never see women in books just taking a break and stopping and refreshing. So when I got into the workforce, I got hit by burnout almost immediately. Just thinking that this quality of yourself, of curiosity and wanting to help and wanting to do everything, was a good thing. For the first time in my life, it was a bad thing because I was just unable to completely pull out of the process and just take some time to rebuild, refresh, and then come back and give that same level of energy. So it was definitely a hard lesson to learn, that sometimes you can do much better if you yourself are in a better mental space and you've taken time to refresh and you've taken time to rest. And so I consistently do have those moments I want to keep going, but I do have, now I have markers with my productivity, I have markers with my personal life that actually allow me to be like, okay, I'm looming on a burnout phase, and I need to just step away, and I need to also be able to trust my teammates to carry me at that point where I really can't just go on because I'm exhausted and I'm tired. So I think for me, rest and taking the time to just care about yourself and having this self-care has been the biggest lesson that has consistently stuck out to me in my professional career. And that balance doesn't necessarily mean giving one thing over the other or having to juggle them. I think balance to some extent means that you can prioritize very crucial parts that actually end up feeding into your productivity and end up feeding into who you are as a teammate, and that's still okay. Because I don't think we get enough representation of people who actually got to a point where they were like, okay, I'm gonna pause either my career, I'm gonna pause this high activity time of my life to make sure that I can grow as a person, that I can rest, and that I can come back feeling even better. So when I do struggle waking up in the morning, I usually am struggling because I'm burning out, and it's just become more apparent that it's okay to rest. It's okay to take time for just yourself out of projects and out of your work. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I think the outstanding factor about ladies in tech is that we're just so keen to details that the littlest of things usually upset us, or the littlest of things usually just make us restless, which is a good thing, a really good thing. All right, so
Getting,
yes.
can I just add? I've just grabbed my current read is this book, so I'm just writing on Roina's um Roina's answer, which is really fascinating. It's called Rest, and it's actually written by someone who's worked like at Silicon Valley for quite a while, and he runs a startup about rest. It's a really book. It's a book I would recommend if you can get a copy to just read about it. So I completely agree with Roina.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. I will look for that book. Thank you, Dr. Chow. Thank you, Reina. Thank you, all of you. So we'll move on to our next question. I like this question because it'll get you back to your imagining thoughts. So it needs you to imagine a little. So if you had one chance to go back in time and change something you wish you really, really did differently, what would that be? I'm going to give you some time. You know, this is a hard one. So we could start with Roina.
Well, to be honest, I think I would not be hard on myself about failing. Like I was always like, oh my gosh, I didn't get an A, I didn't make it to the best schools, I didn't do the best at this project. I mean, I actually genuinely appreciate most of the times that I failed. And to some extent, I wish I was confident enough to feel like I can fail, but it'll still work out. Like, I wish I failed more. I wish I failed more and didn't feel so boxed in by trying to be, oh, so perfect and do everything correctly. I feel like I would have been able to be a little bit more receptive to experiences that were not just dictated by my vision of my future, and I would have been able to play more. And I feel like that journey would have been a lot more fun if, like in uni, if I failed a little more and I didn't feel so bad about it. I think it would have been like really, really something I would have wanted to change. Right now, in retrospect, I'm like, I wish I took advantage of my uni life where I was still eating free food in my mother's house, and like I was like, why was I so worried about all this stuff? And like now when you leave your mother's nest is when you're like, oh my gosh, there's real life problems. I was in a little cocoon where I could have failed, I could have slept later, I could have had more conversations, I could have done so much more, and it would have still worked out. So I just wish I was a little bit more receptive to failure. I would have changed that for sure.
All right, thank you. You do realize you just said you wished you had failed more. I'm just okay. I'm just getting clear on that. Thank you, Reina. Okay, over to you, Ruth. Sorry, you are muted. Sorry.
Okay. So I think for me, there's nothing I can say that I could change because all the learning process, all the challenges that I've been able to go through has really shaped me to be who I am, has given me the opportunity to be able to continue creating impact. Yeah, so just from running an organization from a third year student when I co-founded Polytechno Girls to now the organization having been created an impact of over 5,000 young girls. I believe that some of this process, some of these challenges, they could be very small things like even reaching out to funders, reaching out even to people who come in and support. Imagine you are a third year student, you're still in school, you just have this big dream of coming in and support more young girls to venture into technology and even just continue to develop yourself on the tech career, having the challenges that even in your class, at the uni, that like the representation of girls is very few. So I believe for me, there's nothing I could change. Absolutely whatever has happened, maybe in some time back, has shaped me to be who I am. And I'm really, really grateful. So yeah, so there's nothing for me that I could change or wish could have been different.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ruth. Over to you, Lara.
Sorry, I got a bit stuck there. I think in my tech career, I wish I had learned JavaScript. It was right in the beginning. I think it might have changed my career now a bit. I think I would have remained more in the front end development space. I think that's my only regret. Sometimes I try get on to learning it because it's used so much, but I just don't have the time. So maybe one day, yeah, I'll get to learn it.
Okay, yeah, JavaScript is quite easy. Let me
Yeah.
just try and encourage you. JavaScript is easy. You learn it in 3 days.
Great. I just need 3 days of time.
All right, thank you, Lara.
Thank you.
Joanna.
I think for the most part, I would fall on Ruth's side and say I would not regret anything because everything that I went through kind of shaped me into what I am today, negative, good or bad. However, if I would change something about me, I would stop comparing myself to other people. Because if you compare yourself to other people, first of all, you're limiting your own potential. Because you could be more. I mean, if I compared myself to Ruth, and I decided to lead my life like Ruth, I'm limiting what I could be. What if I'm supposed to be better than Ruth? You see? So if I could change anything, I would stop comparing myself to other people and just stick to having my own plan and just chasing or pursuing every goal that is on my own plan and not being able comparing myself to Stella, to Lara or anybody else. That I could change.
Awesome. That is very good advice. Yeah, thank you so much, Joanna. Over to you, Dr. Chow.
Thank you. Now, it's so two things. The first is I would have listened to my mother early enough when she said that we should stop worrying about what people say about us. I would have started listening to that much earlier than now I completely embrace that. But I think that is just something that we tend to really say, what will people say? And this goes, in a lot of ways, whether it's social life or even professionally, or even some of the barriers of some of the reasons why we don't see a lot of women, say, as professors in academia or as, pursuing higher degrees, is partly because of that socialization that is supposed to be this and not that. And what will happen if I do this? What will, when people say I'm being too ambitious? So there's that. So I just, if I had any advice to my teenage self, is to start listening to that back then. And now I fully embrace it, but I wish I started that earlier. And the other thing is, I just, because I started the mentorship work that I do about 4 years ago, and seeing the kind of impact it's having now and will hopefully continue to have, it's something that I should have started much earlier. But again, just like Joanna and Ruth have said, all the lessons that I gained in my own journey are what I'm putting back today into the work that I do, though. So no regrets, just, an earlier timeline will have worked much better.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Thank you, Dr. Chow. Over to you, Linda.
Thank you, Katie. I think I don't think I'll regret or change much. Especially, I feel like I believe the journey was meant to be the way it was, or it is, or has been, and will continue being. And for me, it's like, what are the lessons that I've learned along the way, and how can I use those lessons to make things better? When I look at my tech journey, again, it made sense. It is what it was, and I'm glad it went that way, because then I was able to get to where I am because of the stuff that I went through. I mean, when I was I really wanted to do a master's in computer science, and specifically at MIT. That was my dream school. And but then again, I realized that's not how I learn. Unfortunately, I do run a program that's a school, but I don't learn in a school format. That's not how I learn best. I learn best in being in a setup of either work or just different experiences than it is being in an actual school. And so for me, I think the learnings in terms of this is just don't beat yourself like so hard and going like, I don't even have, because for me, MIT was because it was just damn expensive and I had no money to figure out how to get there. And so for me, I kept asking myself, I want to get so rich that I can go to MIT. But then again, and then just looking at the process and how everything happened, I ended up at Stanford for something completely different. That's in social entrepreneurship, because now I'm not more into the social entrepreneurship side of things. And so just looking back and going like, yeah, just let the process run. I trust it, and things are going to work out the way they're supposed to be working out. So yeah, I wouldn't change much. Maybe in my world now as a social entrepreneur, it's more, I would love to know what I know now about 3 years ago, because then I would have utilized some of the network and some of the connections that I had since then to have gone or accelerated the impact that we have right now as an organization that is accurate. So yeah, so I think for more is learning, but then again, trusting the process. That's what I would say.
I agree, Linda. Thank you so much. There's a phrase that goes, you had to get to that place to get to this place. So through all your journeys, there is something that you've gone through, whether good or bad, that has actually enabled you to get to where you are right now. That I can attest to. So we can move on to the next question. We are nearing the end of our session. So let me give you this. So what exactly is the determining factor in your career success? What do you feel you did differently for you to stand out so distinctively? Like what advice would you give to any other person who's probably on the same career path as you are in to do differently or something like that? Yeah. So we could start with Linda.
Yeah, sure. I think one for me is just be unapologetically you. Spaces were not designed for other people that are not you. So it's for you to always knock on those doors that most of the times people think are not meant for you. And I think and I know this is a problem because confidence is a key thing to you being able to do that. And I think the reason as to why I am who I am is because I knock on doors that in a normal day nobody expects me to knock. I bring the confidence that I have to meetings and to conversations that make people go like, I think I want to talk to this person. And I always say the reason as to why I do this is because I believe in what I'm doing, I believe in myself, and I believe in the impact of work that I'm doing we have in the continent and also in the world. And so I bring my wholesome self, me as raw as I am, and not try to create somebody that I am not. And so that has allowed me to, for people to just be able to not just believe in the work that I do and be able to put in resources, but also to just be able to, be confident about it. And I think I always say I don't have problems sleeping because whatever I said or whatever I pitched, maybe even to a donor, is actually true. So I'm not sleeping figuring out, I told them I'm going to teach 50 and I'm teaching 20. No, like if I told you 50, it's 50. And if you walk into this campus, you find those 50 people. So for me, it's like be unapologetically you, always speak the truth and always give the truth. There's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of, like fake stuff that's out there in the world. People are not being real. People are not saying the truth, and that's why sometimes it's so hard even for investors to put in money where they're supposed to be putting in, because you give them this fake analogy of who and what you're doing, and then whatever is unearthed later is not the right thing. So, I mean, just present your best self, believe in yourself, be unapologetic at you, but at the same time, know your stuff, know you're a techie, know your stuff, know your thing. So even if it's that interview, you're gonna ace it because you know it, you know what you're bringing to the table, and just be confident and do put yourself in those spaces where in a normal day you think are not meant for you. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's good advice, Linda. Over to you, Dr. Chow. What do you feel you did differently to be where you are right now?
I think I'll phrase that as what I think can place us all now here and even the people we interact with, just continue being our best and doing our best is one, remain teachable. So I think constantly remaining teachable and just learning, not just technology, but learning and on your own skills, reflecting on places you can improve upon. That trait of remaining teachable is something that will really not only increase your ability to keep being good at what you're doing, but also it will really help you know working with others, because a lot of time the inability to be teachable is what really affects our collaborations and our interactions with other people. So that is a skill and a trait that we should continuously work on ourselves, remaining teachable. The second one is being consistent. I think I speak a lot about consistency as one of the things we should put high up there above emotional intelligence or with emotional intelligence, because I feel like being consistent is how you make impact. Most of the time, most of the work that we are doing, my work, Ruth's work, Linda's work, Joanna's, Lara's work, Roina's, is we saw the impact over time. And sometimes it's hard to say you've even mentored someone from a session like this. You can be able to say it if you continuously do something over time, then you can actually say, actually, I believe I've been mentored or have mentored someone. So, but for you to achieve that, consistency is the key. Be consistent in your brand. Personal branding is an entirely different conversation altogether, but being consistent in the work you do and your truth and what you present out there, because just as Linda has said, the tech world, in as much as it's really diverse, it's also very small. It's a very small world, and usually your reputation precedes you. And so when people want to either recommend somebody or they think of the top of the mind status of, who is it that I can work with in XYZ, or that I can even recommend for funding, your reputation precedes you. So being consistent in the kind of brand that you know and remaining truthful in that is something that will probably open doors for you than even your own skills would. So those are the two things that I would say. Getty, I think you're muted.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Dr. Chow. Over to you, Joanna.
I think for me, three things come to mind. One is that be proactive, like literally be a busybody. Keep doing anything. Like don't fear trying out anything. As long as you still have life and energy, just be proactive. Keep trying everything according to your goals or your passion. But also, secondly, is stay very curious. What do I mean by stay curious? Is have this mindset of asking so many questions, because that's how you progress. If you don't know something and you don't ask, you're not progressing because you're not learning anything. So I think for me, curiosity has played a very important role, and not fearing to ask anything. Like there is no dumb question. I mean, you need to think about the questions you ask. But what I'm trying to say is there is nothing so minute. You're not the first one to not ever know something, right? So don't feel shy to ask anything. But also, maybe my last and third one is be disciplined. And okay, I have a different twist to discipline. When I talk about discipline, I mean it's being consistent, but also it's having the mindset of not giving up, of persistence, of grit. In other words, in short, I think it's more of grit, and uh, and knowing that if you keep persisting on something, if you keep having a tougher skin, you always make it. You always get your goal. The first, literally the first 100 tries towards your goal will always fail. But if you don't have grit, discipline, or perseverance, you will never reach your goal. You'll keep giving up, like on your fifth try, and yet you're going to probably, the plan is you'll get it on your 10th try. So you'll find you'll keep moving industries, but if you don't have grit, you won't reach success. That's what I think. Yeah.
You muted again, Getty.
I'm very sorry. Over to you, Ruth. Thank you so much, Joanna.
Okay, so for me, I would actually like to echo what all the speakers have said, but I would also like to add on to two things that I feel can really help, especially as women, and women specifically coming up in technology, or you are in technology. One thing that is very important that I've also learned throughout the way is always ask. Always ask, and the worst response someone can give is always a no. But remember, when you get a no, that's not the end, or you're not going to die. Sometimes I always make a joke and say, when you are able to ask for something and say they give you a no, it's not going to be written all over your face so that you'll get embarrassed about it. So always be in a way that you're able to ask, and you'll be surprised, by the way, by you just asking. You might be having several thoughts, like, okay, I really need maybe to reach out to maybe Dr. Chow, Linda, Joanne, Lara. These are really amazing women. I just want them maybe to assist me, or maybe mentor me, or introduce me to someone else, and maybe you just don't do it. It is always very important to ask. You'll be shocked, by the way, on how people are always ready to help, provided you are able to ask. This is something that I've really learned, and I've carried it throughout my journey. I've been able to just even ask for some of the things that I felt like maybe I'm not going to get a response. And this is something that I would really like even to emphasize with the currently I'm running a program called CODA COVID-19 edition. This is a program that we are training girls virtually. It's happening in Kisumu, Lamu, Nairobi, and Nakuru. So what I decided, that I've been seeing UNESCO really doing great job in supporting girls in education. I didn't know anyone in UNESCO. I didn't have any connection. So what I did, I just sent them an email and asked them, there's this project that you are doing in Mombasa. You're supporting girls learn mobile development, web development. Would you like to come in and support? Yeah, guess what? They were able to respond and actually support us in the process. So it's always very important to ask. Yes, and always don't get discouraged by a no. The other thing that I really like to share is humility. As women, so I'll also like to approach this in two ways. One, humility, and in a way that as women, sometimes we are always considered soft spoken, and at some point you are not able to say no. You can be very humble and say no to some of the things, unapologetic. It's always very, I always find it very funny when someone asks you something, or they expect you to do something. When you say yes, they don't go ahead and ask you, why have you said yes? But if you say no, this triggers so many things, like, why don't you want to do it? Why this and this? So it's always very important. Yes, we'll be very humble, and at some point, if there's something that you cannot do, or there's a lot of ask that you're not able to do, always say no. Sometimes as women, we tend to take in a lot, and we are not able even maybe to say no. So I would really like to encourage all of you to say no at some point. And saying no is also very important, and you don't have to explain about it. say no, I can't do it. You know, at some point we get into situations where you get into maybe authoritative areas or authoritative field where you're able to interact with very people who are very authoritative. They ask you and you're not able to do it, say no, and you don't have to go ahead and give a reason why you don't want to do it. Yeah, so those are the two things. One, be able to ask, be able to be very humble, and at the same time say no. Let's not always say yes to some of the things that we're always given or what we're asked to do. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, Ruth. And over to Lara.
Yeah, I think what everybody's mentioned is so key. And I think a key point is research. There's so many different tech roles. So especially if you're starting out, go and research what are the different roles within tech. Start reading about them. I was just reading some of the questions. There's so much information out there that you can just learn from. So if you can't afford to go to school, or to varsity, I'm self-taught, very much like Linda. I read many books. I'm on YouTube. There's free PDF books. I actually got a lot on JavaScript, believe it or not. I've just never got around to it. And what happens is when you start researching, if something doesn't interest you, you'll move away from it and then you'll start researching something else. So I'm also a Scrum Master. So Scrum Master is very much around leading people to deliver projects. It's something I'm passionate about because it involves people. You could become a product owner within the tech space. So what is a product owner? They're responsible for briefing in the project. You could become a business analyst. What are they doing? So if you could become a front-end developer. So it's such a big space to learn. And from that research, once you start finding your passion, stick to it. Become great at it. You can then start, when you hear about something else, then you just can delve into it, learn it, come back. But stick to your passion, because that's what's going to make you want to wake up every day and go to work. If you stop becoming passionate with something, then it's time to move on.
Thank you so much, Lara. Over to Roina.
I think mine would have to be a little bit on like imposter syndrome. As Linda said, we kind of sometimes exist in spaces where we feel they were not designed for us. And as a result of that, you'll constantly face this feeling that maybe you're there by accident, or maybe like, oh did someone make a typo that got me this job and like miraculously I just landed here. But I think the thing that was transformational for me was to understand that imposter syndrome actually only occurs in very high performance people. So if you do have that feeling, it's a good thing, because you're a high performance person. Your potential is unpeaked, it's unmatched, and the reason why you feel like you're undeserving of that situation is literally just a natural response to, one, the spaces that were not designed for you, and two, the fact that you do have this motivation to establish yourself in those spaces. So understanding that is an effect of something positive, and also understanding that that sometimes you wait for someone to leave you a seat at the table. I mean, that's too timid. Create the seat. Grab the seat from wherever it is and sit at the table. And I think that if you can create those avenues for yourself and actually stop boxing your potential in, you don't be your own worst enemy and like box your own potential in. just allow yourself to understand that you are limitless and your potential is only determined by your own mindset, and that imposter syndrome is as easily beatable as it is created in your mind. Once you start establishing that this is your career, this are your learnings, this is your journey, and you can do what you want with it, I think there's a beautiful kind of power with just embracing it and being completely unapologetic about that part of the journey.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all the speakers. I have noted down the advices that you've given on the chat box. So if anyone needs to review this, you can always copy this and always review them whenever you're feeling low or whenever you're feeling like this is not for you. So thank you guys so much. We can have a parting shot from each of you. If you have any advice to give any young people who are probably on the same path that you're on, or if you feel it's repetitive, you can always say pass and we'll pass. So just a parting shot. We can begin with Lara.
Great, yeah. So there's two things I live by. Is never assume, right? Always ask those questions. It's the only way you're going to learn. And the other quote I live by is, a well-read woman is a dangerous woman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lara. Over to you, Raina.
I think mine would have to kind of just let everybody who's actually on the call right now that you are literally spending your Saturday morning / afternoon pursuing knowledge. You're already on the right track, pursuing knowledge, pursuing gathered experiences, and deliberately putting yourselves in positions of learning and continuously putting yourselves in communities of just growth, I think is going to be transformative for everyone's career and everyone's future. So I do want to just say that you are definitely on the right path already. And don't doubt the process, just embrace it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Raina. Over to you, Joanna.
I think my parting thoughts would be, and I think I'm trying to imagine how I was before I started my career, how I was looking up for inspiration from other people. And I would love to say, this is what I would tell myself then, is that there is no, okay, I mean, theoretically there is a word called expert, but how we look at expertise is not how it's originally thought of. Like nobody knows everything. So we are all a work in progress. So don't feel like there are like 100 ladders and then there are people that are up there and then you are like down there. We all learn from each other. So live with that fact and live with that confidence and just that mindset. I mean, there are people you can respect, but at the end of the day, just know that we are all a work in progress and we all complement each other. So never feel like you don't know anything or you're not useful to anybody. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Joanna. Over to you, Dr. Chow.
Getty, by the way, I wondered, even before I say anything, I'm seeing quite a number of questions. How will those be handled?
I would ask for like 10 minutes of your speaker's time so we can just go through them and answer them really quick.
All right.
Sorry to interrupt. I really apologize, but I have to drop off now.
No worries.
I just want to say thank you so much. This was such a privilege, and I hope to be a part of this again. So thank you, everybody. Lovely to meet you. I'm sorry I had to leave early, but
it's okay. Thank you, Lauren.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Okay, I think Getty, I'll just wait for the questions because I have about 10 more minutes.
Okay, no worries. Okay, Linda, any passing shots?
No, I think I said a lot.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Ruth, any parting shots?
No, I think I also said a lot. Maybe we can just answer the question.
All right, let's jump onto the Q&A. Maureen, are you available?
Hello. Yeah, I'm available. So thank you guys for the wonderful presentations and wonderful insights. So I think I'll just share my screen so that you can see a couple of questions that have been asked. So just a minute. So I'll introduce myself in the meantime. So I'm Maureen Josephine, currently a software engineer at CarePay. And also a community organizer for Flutter Kisumu. And I'm happy to be here. So can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we can, Maureen.
Yeah, so this is it. We have the first question. So how do you go about your personal branding as a professional? How do you make your professional capabilities be known to the world? Yeah, so I think we can get answers from the speakers regarding this point.
Is there anyone in particular who would like to take this up?
Maureen, may I suggest something kindly? May I suggest something kindly, Maureen and Getty? I think for the sake of time, it's for the sake of time, maybe instead of all of us answering the questions, you can just like pick one of us to answer one question each, so that will be faster.
All right, no worries.
Yeah.
So, Maureen, you can just do a random select.
Yes, for the first one, I'll go with Dr. Chow. So how did you go about your personal branding as a professional, and how do you make your professional capabilities be known to the world?
Incidentally, just last Saturday, I ran a personal branding session at Kamilimu incidents, and my motto about personal branding is there's no template for personal branding. Personal branding is not an action; it's a consequence of a long time and the work that you're doing. And so, you can't sit down with a template and say, and draw up a personal brand. It's a consequence. It's about the work that you're putting out there. It's about the impact you have in your community, or even if you're not actively currently involved in any work, or you're not founded something, but I mean even in your immediate circle, it's about the relationships you maintain, the work that you're doing, and that over time leads to your personal brand. So that's how you, according, in my opinion, those are the strongest, most long-lasting personal brand that you can create as a professional. It's a consequence and not an action. For the second part is, how do you make your professional capabilities known to the world? So again, not all of us here want to be on social media or are on social media in a way that you can be talking about your work, and that's perfectly okay. So don't feel the pressure of creating a Twitter account and constantly talking about your work, but how you make your professional capabilities known to the world is one. If you have skills, or you're building skills that you're currently working on, or you're already an expert at something, identify communities that will best support you, or that best represent who you are. Again, that might not be Twitter, it might not be Facebook, so that you can continue talking about your work. It can be very specialized circles where you can present your skills and you can contribute your skills and you can showcase your skills to the world. So identify spaces that best support you, one, as a person. In other words, they support your personality, and two, they also support the work that you do. So that's the first step. But the second part is also don't forget to, and I think this has been said a lot by Ruth and the other panelists, is always seeking out either support from others or spaces where you can be able to showcase your work. And in that doing, the ripple effect of, people will start talking about your work, and you'll then have the impacts known. But again, I repeat, personal branding is not an action, it's a consequence. And I think that, if anything, is what we should take home.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to note. So I hope the person who asked this is satisfied. So we'll go to the next question. So how did you know the next step to take in your careers, e.g., like how did you know it was time to leave one company or position to go to another? So I'll pose this question to Roina.
Great. Okay. So my career path has been a little bit unconventional. I started off as a back-end engineer, and then I went into developer relations, and then I somehow ended up in product. I think for me, which is 100% completely unique to my own goals, is that I felt like my journey was in the pursuit of gathering skills that would benefit my career in the long term. So weirdly, with backend and having that ability to interface and build product, like as an engineer, gave me a lot of perspective in the path I am in right now. And so there were definitely different parts of the journey that were like acquiring skills. So with backend writing code, that's a whole different experience. It's a whole different way of thinking. And then I went into developer relations simply because I really wanted to understand this product that we're building for. How do the people who are interfacing with this products use this product? And developer relations really opened up the door for me to understand usability on a whole different level. Then with those nuggets, those little skills and insights from both experiences, I think it was so wholesome to get into product where it's a combination of all of those, plus business thinking, plus strategic decision making. So yes, there are other avenues for people in software to grow upwards into. You can go into product, you can go into design, you can specialize and go a little bit deeper, challenging most of us on the call to go into academia. Let's join Dr. Chow in academia. And I'm like, there are definitely intervals. I think it's having a long-term vision of what you want your career to look like, and at least giving yourself flexibility to craft experiences around the skills that you will require to arrive at that level of career you need to get to. If you want to go into academia, maybe you have to go the academic route. You have to move in that direction. So I think having a long-term vision of what you want your career to look like can definitely give you a little bit more direction in terms of the kind of stuff that you need to immerse yourself in presently, the kind of experiences, the kind of companies you need to work with, the kind of skills you need to get there. So I think that there are very many books that can actually allow you to start to think of long-term career goal planning. And I think for me, that really definitely unlocked for me the possibilities of gathering these skills in different companies and in different roles. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
So,
sorry to interrupt you, Maureen. So I would ask you to just pick 3 more random questions that the other remaining speakers can answer, and then we'll stop from there. I'm really sorry, guys, we caught up with time.
Yeah, so sorry about that. So I think I'll pick one more and pose it to Ruth. So how do you balance career with love, life, and family?
Oh, great. That is a very good and tough one. For me, the best way that I can say how you can balance is being able to prioritize. And I think one of the speakers said that you need to prioritize, because maybe if you have like family, which currently I'm not into family, I've not gotten into marriage, so that is not something that I can be able to advise. But I feel just having that capability, being able to prioritize. But one thing that I would also really like to encourage is anything. It could be career, it could be life, it could be education. Family always comes first. So whenever you prioritize anything, family should come first. And also being able to plan. One thing that I believe that women are very good in planning. If you're able to plan yourself very well, you'll be able to actually achieve and come up with a solution on how you're going to manage everything. So planning is very important. And also not allowing your love life or your personal life come into your work. Yeah, as women at some point, maybe we might be having a lot, but we really need to know the demarcation or the distinct point where like we are not able to bring in our personal life, our family. I feel that it's very, very important. Yeah, so I really hope I answered that well.
Yeah, you did. So for the next question, I'll pose it to Joanna. Did job seeking take a toll on you, and how did you get your current job?
Can you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
The question is, did job seeking take a toll on you, and how did you get your current jobs?
Okay, I think I may have a unique path, and by no, I'm just going to tell you how because it's really personalized. So like I said, my first job I was headhunted from university. Like headhunting, I don't know how in Uganda. So a company comes to a university, they pick up they pick up some students they feel they want to interview. They interview you, and you get a job. So I left that job after 9 months, and then I started my job hunting for almost a year in 2014. And my personal job hunting did not amount to anything personally. And so my next job, I got it through reference. So I was just emailed. Somebody in Kenya, I was in Uganda, but somebody in Kenya just emailed me to join a company. That's why I'm saying my my path is unique and it may not be your path. And most of the other jobs, even my next job after that job was through reference. I didn't apply for that job too. Well, I've applied for some other things, but I've not really applied for jobs currently. So what I'm trying to say, through my path, I could say try to network with people. When you go for a meetup, talk to people, introduce yourself, tell people about what you're doing, because for me, that was the only way I got a job. But some other people could have different ways. Another thing could be if you don't take my path, it could be like try to brand yourself. One thing I've noticed, if you're a programmer or software developer, what makes you stand out is usually working on open source, especially for people that feel like you don't go to enough meetups or you're not well connected enough. So open source speaks for you. People are looking at GitHub and they'll always see your contributions, but also it's one way of building up sort of work experience because open source software is actually production level software. So if you're making commits there, you're sort of trying to you stand out a little bit, but also through open source communities, you're able to meet people that could refer you to your next job or something. So I'm sorry if I could not meet every person in his case, but again, my case is very unique, and you may not have the luxury of having references for all the jobs you'll ever have. But I think if you try to stand out in your work and not give up in your job search and try to network as much as possible, yeah. So that's how you can get your next opportunity.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Networking helps. So I'll pose this next question. I probably think this is the last one to Linda Kamau. So how do you advocate yourself to yourself? That is outside of what externally motivates when things get hard. How do you convince yourself you have what it takes?
That's a very good question. How do I convince myself Well, I think for me, as I said, I'm a very optimistic person. So I live with plan A, B, C, and D. So when plan A doesn't work, I move on to plan B and plan C and plan D. Like I work like the way our exams in school, I don't know why they're still like that, used to be option A, B, C, and D. That's how I do things. So I always don't view, like when I get a hard, something that is hard or whatever, like it's hard. I don't believe in hard. I just do what Laura said, just research. So it's just spending so much time figuring out what's next and things like that. I enjoy problem solving. It's maybe that's why I do the work that I do. I love challenges because that's for me, that's a source, a time for me to find knowledge and grow my intelligence, I think. So I can't say that I don't find ways to figure out hard things, but I think because I enjoy problem solving, then it becomes a little bit easier for me. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I pass it on to Getty for any other things. We are sorry, guys, we are not able to answer like all the questions for now.
Yes, thank you so much, Maureen. Thank you so much for all of you who made time to come here and get as much as you could from our amazing speakers. I'm really sorry we weren't able to answer your questions, and I'm really sorry we've eaten into some of your time, but we'll do better coordination and better organization next time so that we fit the program into the time that was set for the sessions. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Dr. Chow. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Roina. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Lara, in absentia. You guys are phenomenal, and we really, really love you. Thanks for being here. And yeah, I'll probably hit you up for more in the future. Thank you guys so much. You are at liberty to leave.
Thank
You
you.
guys. See you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.